Hello, hello everyone. I'm Adam. Most of you guys know me. I currently work for the East Sussex College Group across East Sussex. We've got 4 main campuses, which is Eastbourne, Lewes, Hastings and Orr, with a new smaller campus in New Haven that we're also looking to expand and do some cool stuff with. I'm responsible for creating content for their immersive spaces now. So I get to make little educational pieces, little CPD pieces and stuff like that, but also games, which is kind of the dream really. So, so that's fantastic. I also do a lot of other things as well. So as I say, the Brighton Unity user group. I'm also the Brighton representative for Game Dev Local, who host expos and indie game dev events there. I'm also involved with the Southeast Employability in Games Network, which is a much more recent thing, but we're trying to establish like better connections between education and the games industry and sort of change up how we're kind of doing things to make it easier for everyone, really is the goal for that. However, outside of all of that, I've developed a software for the University of Sussex. So, that's what I'm going to be talking about today. How to create a quantum pod tour. These are the kind of challenges that we were put up against. The University of Sussex, it's busy, very, very busy. Their quantum labs are just fully booked all hours every day. It's nuts. And they have such a demand for people to come in and see their facilities, tour their facilities and get things like work experience, or like how do you involve other areas of education so they can train up in the right ways to enter this field of research, for example. They're even struggling in some ways allowing their own students to have enough time in the labs to run their own projects and research projects and things. So the biggest problem that I have to kind of try to resolve is how do we really relay all of that information across? How do we do something where people can just have access to all this information in sort of a controlled way that they'll be able to both manage, that they can store locally, and that they just have full control over. They also deal with a lot of kind of like sensitive information as well. So quite a lot of barriers there. And I wanted to add the extra level of difficulty of going, okay, well, how do we run this, but also make it valuable work experience for some students? How do we make it scalable? How do we sort of, tick all those boxes and allow for expansion past that point as well? This. So, I had some choices to make. I know what I went with, but with those kind of constraints, what sort of things come to mind with you guys? What sort of things pop into mind? Like how would you resolve those kind of issues, do you think? Does anyone have any sort of ideas or resolutions that they would put in place, or experiences that they might put forward for this? Exactly, it's tricky. So, so what I came up with was a virtual tour. I kept it nice and basic. I went, Google Maps-esque would be the most informative, straightforward way, in my experience, to present all the information required. So, student work experience. What could I get students to do? Obviously students, these particular students were computing students. They were working with the T-level course in computing at Brighton Met College. They were assigned to me for work experience in a number of different capacities. I basically set them to start researching. How do we do this? How do we plot, all these points? We're going to get given a little blueprint of the labs. Where do we need to take photos? How do we work the 360 camera in a way that isn't going to detract away from the information that we need to gather? And how do we structure it and do it from the ground up? And it really was up to them to decide all that kind of stuff, and I followed them for that process. So they had free reign, and then this experience is what came out of that as well. So I've tried to make it as easily expandable as possible. Apologies for the random Unity snippet. And you can kind of see the approach that I went for. It looks a little bit like a mess. But essentially, it's a sphere with inverted normals, which has a 3D 360-degree image mapped to the interior. And then the player character, or the player model, is put in the center of that to allow a full 360 wraparound of that image in real space. What that also allows for is something that I'll get into in a little bit as well, and the design approach that I took feeds into that, but I'll mention that in a moment. I just want to say that I love scriptable objects, so they feature quite heavily. I also try to keep it as simple as I possibly can, so it's one button press to interact with things, keep it as clear as possible. Also, do bear in mind that this is still a work in progress, and I am a programmer. So, you can kind of see it's very basic, quite functional. What you're looking at there is actually a custom engineered grid that probably costs around £30,000. And I will add info sheets, little info bubbles to that as well. So this is where it ties into in terms of how it's been designed. I've specifically made it so that it's viable for usage on browser and in VR. They are both going to be the same version of the build, essentially. There isn't going to be much difference between. It's going to automatically select if based on the hardware that you're using as to what it selects as the default mode. I've also purposefully optimized the living hell out of this to make it able to be able to run on browser natively as well. Just simply to keep it as simple as I possibly can, so that when I do hand it off to the university in full, they don't have to worry about it. They can upload more images if they want to, upload 360 images and apply it to a prefab and just put it in the right spot. All the navigation that happens inside of this is automated. All they have to do is say what places it connects to, and it will automatically place navigation points based on its location in the world space in the scene itself. So very, very simple, very easy to set up and do. My next steps, I'm currently awaiting feedback to censor some of the images. They have copywritten PCB boards and stuff like that are on display. So I'm awaiting that back, so apologies. I did really want to put in more pictures and show off a lot more, but I actually had to obscure quite a lot of it. We don't want any multi-million-pound ideas just sort of, sprinkling out into the ether. So yeah. And there's also feedback sessions that I'm in the process of booking in at the moment as well, so that I can iterate on it and get it more to a finalized version. I will also be diving into Blender as well for the first time, which is painful for me to say, but but that should add quite a lot to it as well, especially for like hub areas and that sort of thing. Hence making it fancy. But that's my little project. That's my little side project that I've been working on. So thank you very much, guys.